Hello, welcome back to my lecture series on writing and genres and writing in your field. Some of the lectures in this series might seem a bit theoretical. Let me explain in this video where I'm going with it. This and also the next lecture or two. These are leading up to one of the assignments, upcoming assignments. So in this video, I'm going to explain that assignment as the genre analysis essay, sort of a genre analysis essay. And then I will also talk about the final paper in this video. So, genre analysis. We've been talking about research methods and understanding your field, and that kind of pertains to the genre of academic writing. So, genre maybe in terms of, poetry, novels, and short stories, but you can talk about academic writing genres. Research papers and full-length research dissertations and conference papers and things like that. But you can also talk about genres in terms of different fields or subgenres. Like the writing style in literature research is really different from the writing style in engineering, very much so, or math, or physics, or biology, or psychology, or theoretical linguistics, or applied linguistics, or philosophy. They're all sort of like different genres or subgenres within this big field we call academic writing. So there's an assignment, it's sort of a major essay assignment or an important essay assignment coming up that I call the genre analysis assignment. I'm not asking you to do a literary critique of writing in your field in that sense, but I'm asking you to think about the nature of writing in your field and how it reflects some of the goals and values of the field. So in these videos, in this series, I have been talking a lot about, the nature of research and a little bit about writing as a result, different kinds of research and orientations to research and important ideas like theories and such. And I'm going to tie things together more in an upcoming lecture. For your genre analysis assignment, you're going to pick two published academic research articles from your field. Now, these can be the same as what you used for the midterm paper. That's fine, because you're going to do something very different. In this assignment for my class, you're going to explain the research. Not what they did or what they found, but why they did things the way they did, and how that affects their writing style and the nature of the writing. So it's sort of like you're talking about how does one write a paper in my field? So you pick a very specific field, and don't just pick, English. I mean, focus on, say, theoretical linguistics, applied linguistics, literature analysis, culture studies, or if you're from a different field like engineering or ecology or something, that's cool too. Pick some academic articles, published research articles from your field, scholarly articles, and you're going to kind of analyze them. And you can focus on different aspects. You can focus a bit more on the research methods, but you should talk about the research and how it shapes the writing. Okay, why do people write papers the way they do in the field? So it's kind of like you're making some key observations, how you write papers in the field. Not a detailed analysis, but this is kind of a short paper, a couple of pages. And I just want you to explain what research people do, why they do research that way, and then how that shapes the writing. For example, the research that they do, you're going to pick a couple of articles that are on the same or similar research topics, and maybe explain the research methods. Okay, what kind of research methods do they use and why? Why do people in that field or in a subfield or people in a particular area of research in a field, why do they use that kind of research? If they use qualitative interview research, why do they do that? If they use quantitative surveys, why do they do that? If they use lab experiments, like psychology lab experiments to study language issues, why do they do that? If they use theoretical methods for investigating language, why do they do that? If they are using interpretive methods or theoretical methods for analyzing a certain kind of literature, why do they do that? And what are their goals? What are their purposes? Why are they trying to analyze literature or language or whatever they are doing? How does it affect the writing style? So you're going to talk about the research methods and why they do that and how it affects the writing. So, for example, you don't have to talk about all of this, but you could comment if you notice some things about the writing style, the word choice, the terminology, key words and phrases that get used a lot. And is that distinctive? Is that something interesting? You might notice something about the sentence style or variety or length. If you notice that, that's worth commenting on. The tone, how does it affect the tone? Like their goals in research and the research methods they use can affect the tone and style of the writing. For example, does it sound really informal? Does it sound more semi-formal? And why? A lot of kinds of science writing or quantitative writing can sound very formal. Does it sound really formal or informal? Does it sound very dry, like a plain science paper? Or is it trying to be eloquent? So, for example, some people in literature research, they try to write eloquently as well. Literature scholars who publish papers in which they analyze literature or literature issues, they often try themselves to express themselves very eloquently, very well. They themselves, the writers, care a lot about their own word choice. If they're analyzing, say, some poet, this literature professor herself is trying to be really eloquent, trying to show, because, well, in literature they value the expressiveness and expressive power of language. In science papers, maybe they don't care. It's the facts. You care about reporting a lot of facts and information, conveying a lot of ideas as concisely as possible. Does the tone sound very objective, like a science paper, very dry and objective? Does it sound a little more subjective, like maybe the author's own interpretation has some validity? And you might see some of that. Not that the paper is too subjective, and it shouldn't use a lot of I and we and not too much first person, but sometimes a little subjective quality comes through, like in some humanities research and maybe some critical evaluative research or interpretive research. The writer's own voice might come through a little bit more, and say maybe the writer's purposes in the research are directly expressed, directly explained. We chose to do this because the writer's own views are coming through. For example, when they are maybe political science scholars are writing very critically and harshly about, a certain government, a certain administration, and some really bad things that it did. So sometimes the voice of the writer might come through more in a way that's still academic in tone, but a little subjective. Or is the writer trying to connect with the reader? And you might see this in some humanities research, sometimes in some sort of sociolinguistic research, qualitative, theoretical, interpretive research. Is the writer trying to connect more directly with you as a reader somehow, without like using you, but does the tone sound like the writer is really trying to make you feel comfortable, trying to establish some sort of rapport with you as a reader in a way that's still fairly academic, but sort of what we call intersubjective? The subjective is like me, objective is a third person, intersubjective is like me and you. The writer's trying to create some kind of a connection with you or persuade you more personally, but again, without sacrificing a professional tone or style. And occasionally you might see some use of we in more subjective or intersubjective style papers in humanities and other related fields. Does it sound very informational in tone and style? Does it sound like it's providing a lot of information? Does it sound like it's providing a lot of analysis? Does it sound more persuasive in tone or style? Like you feel like the writer is trying to persuade you. Now, all writing is in some sense persuasive. Like a science paper is trying to convince you, this is a cool experiment. I've proven something. I found something new. But it sounds very, very objective and maybe dry. Do your papers sound more specifically persuasive, more directly persuasive, or more informational? We did this experiment. These are the implications. The organization of the paper. Does the research methodology, the goals of the research, does it affect the way that the paper is structured? We've talked before about like a typical quantitative paper structure, very rigid structure, for example, while other kinds of research might have more of a freer form. In the paper organization, is the paper organized very clearly? Does it follow a certain kind of very set structure? Is it tightly structured? Is it at least using kind of section headers and subheaders for like the different sections of the paper in a way that's logical, nonetheless? In terms of the research methods and the epistemology, I'll talk about epistemology in another video some more. Is it kind of open-ended research? Is it got kind of a general research question that's kind of open-ended? Is it more of a specific research hypothesis? Is it more of an exploratory paper? Or again, more critical or evaluative or some other purpose or applied? How does all of this, and also some of the things I'm going to talk about in a further video or videos, how does all of this affect the contents of the body paragraphs? So the writer has the main thesis in the beginning of the paper, and then the different body paragraphs and body sections each have some kind of a main idea, a topic sentence. What kind of support is in those body paragraphs to support each topic sentence? Is the support the contents of the body paragraphs? Is it empirical data, hard evidence? Is it more like logical argumentation, theoretical arguments? Is it more kind of subjective interpretation? Is it a theoretical interpretation? Is it more qualitative or quantitative kind of data? What kind of support? And there's another video in the series that talks more about kinds of rhetorical support in body paragraphs. What kind of support do you see in the different sections of the paper, and why? Citations. When you look at your sample papers, how do the authors use citations? And this may vary from one section of the paper to the other. So maybe in the beginning section, or if there's a literature review section, they're going to use citations. They're going to cite sources and explain them for certain reasons. Then you move on to like a body section or general discussion section in the paper. They will again cite other sources. How and why do they cite sources? For what purpose do they cite sources and use those sources to develop their ideas? So what I want you to do is to talk about some of these points. You don't have to talk about all of these, of course. The things that seem more interesting or relevant to you. Imagine, for example, you're looking at this paper in order to learn more about how people write academic papers in this field. Well, as you read these sample papers, these published research articles, what do you learn as you read through this and as you consider the questions and stuff that I've been kind of feeding you in this unit and the questions in the book? What kind of stuff is in there? What do you learn? What do you notice as you read through these published papers? So you should cite at least 2 articles and discuss them meaningfully. Don't just directly quote a bunch of sections and chunks from the papers, but talk about them, explain them to me, not what they did, but why they did what they did, and things like the research methods, their goals, and how that affects the writing of the paper. So you should cite your sources in this paper. You should cite your sources. And that's your genre analysis assignment. I used to do this as sort of a midterm paper, and I realized, why in the world am I doing that? That's too much. I'm cutting it back to sort of a short essay assignment, minor essay assignment, but worth 100 points. So this is designed to help you understand your field more. And that's why I'm doing all of these lectures about research methods and sort of genre and understanding your field and the writing of your field. And this exercise will also help you to explore this more. And you may have been getting Google Form assignments from me to do that are all connected with this. Whatever you've written for your Google Form assignments in this unit, hopefully your form emailed it back to you, because you can use that too. The stuff that you've written for the Google Form assignments related to this unit, you can use that. You can take that and expand on it for this genre analysis assignment. Sounds good? Fun? Okay. Maybe not fun, but it's a good learning experience. Next, let me talk about the final paper. We get a minor thing out of the way first. I didn't really require this so much for the midterm paper, but for the final paper, of course, in the back of my book, I've got this little section about the format for papers, including like the document format here. And then for major papers like the final, you should definitely use a title page or cover page. There's one here in the back of my book, either like this style, or on the next page, there's another style, something like this. I mean, I don't want like really huge logos over it or anything, just simple text, a simple text title page like that. And then this shows you what the first page of your actual text, your paper, looks like. After the title page, page 1, you don't need a heading or anything on that. Just start with the title, come down a few lines, and then start the introduction of your final paper. That's the format. And of course, you need a works cited or in references section where you list your sources. Final paper. You most likely will want to take the midterm and expand on it. That's probably the best option for most of you. The midterm was sort of basically start a research paper, do the intro and the literature review section, sort of a background section on your topic. You're going to basically expand on that, turn it into a full paper. You've done the first part. You've kind of created a draft of the intro. You can rework that if you need to. In the literature review section, you can revise it some based on the comments I will have provided you. And then develop the body section, the main body section of your paper. The kinds of main points that maybe you outlined in what you did for the midterm, you can then develop as main points in the body section, the main body section or general discussion section, or sections of your paper. If you're more doing an empirical paper, okay, kind of do your empirical, a write-up of the empirical part, and then the discussion section where you then explain it. This may be more relevant to the grad students in this class who would be actually undertaking such a task. But yeah, if you did more for a proposal, okay, develop that proposal now. The main body of your paper, flesh it out, develop your ideas, develop your analysis, your main points. You've hopefully identified a main thesis for the whole paper. Now develop the main points in the main body section that goes after the literature review and goes beyond the literature review. Your main analysis, your main ideas. If you want to, you can choose a different topic. That's fine. It's basically starting over. If you want to do extra work, you don't like your midterm topic, you want to do something new, that's fine. You just got to start all over and do a whole paper. Now, you can do a paper that you're also doing in another course. I don't mind. In that case, if your professor in that other class wants you to email it or to upload it in the LMS, maybe email it to me, because my due date is going to be sooner, and I also don't want the LMS to think that you're plagiarizing when you submit it the second time for that other class. And my due date is going to be earlier, so I have time to grade these and give you a little feedback, and because there's also another little minor assignment at the end of the course, or sort of not minor, but a reflective paper at the end of the course. I'll talk more about later. So you need citations in the text, you need references. The exact number I'll put in the LMS, although it can vary depending on your field. But this should be a fully developed research paper like what you do in a third or fourth year college class, in one of your other classes. Any topic is fine, whether it's a linguistics topic, literature analysis, or physics, whatever stuff you're into, whatever classes you're taking. All fine with me. I like all kinds of stuff. Throw it at me. So the requirements for the final paper will be posted later in the LMS. The upcoming lectures in this series are going to deal more with the genre analysis unit and the research methods and genre analysis section of this course. And we'll hopefully tie some of these things together. And hopefully this video kind of ties some of that together too, what I said earlier about the genre analysis. So you've got the genre analysis paper coming, you've got a final paper coming, which I will probably make due before finals week. Again, it's like a draft version of what you're doing for another class. I'm, not an expert on whatever it is you're doing. So I'm not going to grade the content maybe as strictly as your other professor, but I'm looking for like a proper academic paper, proper form of an academic paper with proper unique ideas and development of your main points and support for your ideas. At the end of the semester, last assignment will be sort of a final reflective paper. And this is kind of like the very last assignment. So it's going to be worth as much as the writing process paper. It's kind of a minor essay. In the final reflective paper, I want you to write a short paper. This is a first person kind of informal paper. You're reflecting on what you've learned in this class, what things you've learned, maybe if you've grown or gained in your developing your understanding of some things about writing or about your field. What are some things you haven't learned that you think you should have learned? What are some questions you still have about anything in the course? Feel free to comment also on the course itself and suggestions for improvement, or things like, I didn't understand this, or I think we should have covered this in the class. Because I have an intermediate writing class in the fall and I have this advanced class in the spring. But you can make comments like that too if you want to. But this is mainly a self-reflective paper, and I'll put a description in the LMS also for that. And of course, this course this semester has been limited by the format. It's been a video course. I wanted to go back to live, face-to-face, in-person classes, but we couldn't because of Omicron. Last minute, I had to change everything back to video format. And because of that, the number of students allowed into the course is huge. My apologies for that, but I had no control over things like that. So that's really limited this course. So hopefully from now on, courses will be live in person. But nonetheless, feel free to comment on, if you want to, what you thought of the course, what you think of yourself as a writer, ways that you've improved or grown, ways that maybe you think you still need to improve or need to learn, need to grow in. Feel free to do that for the final reflective paper. So again, 3 main assignments coming up the rest of the semester. Genre analysis paper, your main final paper, that's the big one. And then a final reflective paper, a short essay, a final reflective short essay. All of that will be in the LMS. All right. I hope that helps. I hope you enjoy your homework and get something out of it. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.